This is 1 in 36, a presentation of the Anderson Center for Autism. 1 in 36 is a weekly show devoted to autism spectrum disorder.
Good morning and welcome to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky, Chief Development Officer at Anderson Center for Autism. And this morning I am speaking with Dr. Barayev, otherwise known as Dr. Vlad. And we're going to hopefully you'll explain that to us in a few minutes, but welcome to the show. And thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It is my pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Great. I think this is going to be a fun conversation. I know a little bit about you, just what I could find online in preparation for this interview, but I'd really love to start with asking you to just tell us and our listeners, about yourself, your background, and then we'll get into the type of medical provider that you are and what your sort of core belief system is that makes you and your practice so unique.
Absolutely. I would love to. So my name is Dr. Vladimir Barayev, and I am a general pediatrician who specializes in autism for children. And I currently am the owner of Barayev Pediatrics and the main clinician here. And we provide direct primary care services for general pediatrics, as well as autism testing for children. And the real goal of my practice is to make sure that I am there as a navigator for families who are navigating a life with a child on the autism spectrum.
Well, you've already hit on a couple things that I know just from being at Anderson for the past almost 18 years now, and speaking to so many families. You're already touching on a number of really sort of high profile challenges that so many families have shared with us over the years. One of them being, first and foremost, just anybody specializing in providing general practice medical care to children on the autism spectrum, because some do not. They don't feel comfortable or capable to do so. But also another thing, which is testing. And I assume you mean, so you provide, you diagnose?
Yes, correct. I diagnose.
Okay, so that's another big gap that I'm sure you're aware of in terms of people looking for that. But a third thing that really is, at least in my experience, one of the main challenges, because it lasts for a long time, is the navigation. So many families, when they come to Anderson and they're sort of telling their story about when their child was first diagnosed, talk a lot about how it was sort of an initial relief in some cases to know that their child, was going to be diagnosed with something with a name and some symptoms and some, some structure around it. But then there was right after that sense of, but now I don't know what to do. And oftentimes that pediatrician or that diagnostician wasn't there to sort of help them for the next step. So I cover all that just to I'd love to hear you talk more about how you got to the point of recognizing that those are just some of the things that you wanted to make sure you do in your own practice and why.
So those are all excellent questions. I think I'll try to simplify it as much as I can to the best of my ability. So one of the reasons why I love and chose general pediatrics is, aside from loving to be around children, I have a strong focus on preventative care and trying to work out any issues before they show up or before they get worse. That's the definition of preventative care. And I'm a little bit biased in that I feel that pediatricians are the masters of preventative care, because early on, before we develop bad habits or bad health consequences in our lives, when we're children, is one of the crucial moments when you can intervene and start changing the direction of someone's life. So you can have like the butterfly effect, where you can make a small shift in a person's life early on that affects everything else downstream. So when it comes to working with children on the autism spectrum, I have found it is a highly neglected area with high need and growing need every day. And it is something that I feel very comfortable speaking to families about and helping them to navigate. And it's that first touch point to guide you on a long journey of autism is crucial. I feel I wanted to be one of the first people that a family would get in touch to offer them kind of a general idea of the landscape of what they should expect going forward, because it's not only from the medical realm that autism would play a role in their lives. Social realm, educational, psychological, emotional, all aspects of a person's life are touched by this condition. So I want families to have that understanding clearly and to feel confidence knowing that the information that they're getting is something that's been vetted, that has been looked at from a skeptical perspective. And I share what I find with families. And I honestly share with them how much we don't know about autism, because there is a lot. Mm-hmm. Having someone who is confident enough to tell you, yeah, there's a lot, as an expert that tells you, yeah, there's a lot that we still don't know in the entire field, and they're still being investigated and researched. It helps them feel like, oh, it's not already a prepackaged thing where there's an automatic route that every single person is going to take. And when it comes to being on the autism spectrum, I look at it from the perspective of it being an infinite game. So an infinite game is different from a finite game. The famous words of that wonderful New York Times best-selling book, mm-hmm. The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. It's not like a game of soccer where there's a start time and end time. The winner is the one who has the most goals at the end. If not, they go to penalty shootouts, whatever, what have you. In an infinite game, the goal is to continue playing and have the resolve to continue. There is no winning at parenting. There is no winning at having autism. So I talk about what are the things that are going to be necessary going forward. And I bring the general pediatric approach to all the families I work with. So when I said preventative care, I focus on the 6 pillars of health. With my preventative care discussion, it's the very first thing we talk about at the beginning and the end of each session with families. And those 6 pillars are adequate nutrition, proper sleep, moving the body regularly, coping skills for challenging situations in life, and hint, hint, every single day is a challenge for everyone, not only for individuals on the autism spectrum. Relationships and managing our relationships with others, because no person is an island. And the last one is environmental toxins and noise pollutions, air pollution, water pollution, what have you. Those 6 pillars are the ones that we focus on. To do this kind of job properly and adequately takes time. It takes relationships. It takes trust between family and their medical provider. So I needed to have a framework where I gave enough time for each of these topics and gave availability for families to be able to reach me. So this is how I ended up here.
That is fantastic and also perfectly timed. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask you some questions to give us a sort of an inside glimpse into what that is actually like when somebody comes into your office. Because I think when I was reading about you a little bit, it's very eye-opening to me about just how different an experience in your office is going to feel to somebody who hasn't been there before. Dr. Vlad, we're going to get into that too and where that came from and why you go by that. I really appreciate you being on the show. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Sometimes I just cannot believe all the storms we've gone through here.
I can only hope that we'll be able to leave this house to you one day, baby. You're our legacy.
Planning for these disasters will make sure we're safe, and is the best way to protect that legacy. You know what? We should make an emergency communication plan. That way we're ready this year. At my dorm, we have emergency kits for earthquakes and wildfires, but I'm sure there's something more local I can send you with a link.
Okay.
Smart.
Protect your legacy. Visit ready.gov/plan for the tools and tips you need to start your emergency preparedness plan today. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Okay, forest animals, today is a new day. Kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow.
Yes?
Have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. Okay, River.
Dude.
How's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man. Perfect for a little riverside shoeless relaxation.
Ah, good. Owl, you here? Course. Who's asking? I am. Look, you know the drill. Sleep during the day, scare the kids at night. Perfect. I love my job. Oak Tree?
What's up?
Still in the same place I left you last year. That's what I like. Consistency.
Well, it's not like I'm going anywhere for the next couple hundred years.
I know. I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. You'd think he would have learned by now to leave the night before our meetings. Okay, Squirrel. Has anybody seen Mr. Squirrel?
The forest has been preparing just for you. Visit a forest near you today. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
And now, 1 in 36 continues on 100.7 WHUD. This is a weekly community affairs program presented by the Anderson Center for Autism.
Welcome back to 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozinski, and I'm speaking today with Dr. Vlad, otherwise known as Dr. Vladimir Barayev. Doctor, before we get back into our conversation, you mentioned that you have an office where you are the main pediatrician. Where is that office, just so people can get a sense geographically?
It's located in New York City, in one of the boroughs, Staten Island. Staten
Island, New York. Great. Easy to get to and very unique, as we were hearing about. So you were talking in the first half of the show about so many things that were really resonating with me, mostly because of the parents that I've had the pleasure of meeting over my time working at Anderson Center for Autism. You are literally hitting on so many things that have been challenging for them. And in the second half of what you were talking about with the 6 pillars, of health that you start every day with, it sounds, probably as you're working with children and families, being really the core pillars of what you're doing. And then the comment about there's no winning in parenting. It's an infinite game. This whole, the idea that there is no, oh, your child has autism, so here's what you do now for the rest of their life. Like there's that doesn't exist. You commented on being open about what we know in the scientific and medical community and also what we don't know, which hit me just because I'm thinking so many families, they may recognize that there's still a lot of research going on, but having a professional that they trust also say, that's real. You're not alone. You're not feeling like you don't know because you haven't read everything. It's because everything hasn't been done yet. That's a very sort of subtle, but really important difference. So I'm sort of really, it's really resonating with me a lot, everything you're saying. But let's get into what you talked about towards the end. You've created this practice. It's in Staten Island, New York. You've made some very clear decisions about what you want to do, who you want to serve, and the kind of effect you want to have. So tell us what it's like when somebody makes an appointment and comes in for their first appointment with you.
So my goal for setting appointments with families is to make it as stress-free as possible, because clearly understand from my experience working with children over the past 12 years that it's a very different experience to bring a child. And of course, there's a spectrum of difficulty, but there's a different experience of bringing a child into a doctor's office who is neurotypical or who has autism. There are unique challenges that can come up. And a lot of those challenges stem from my personal experiences. I don't mean to get negative, but I just want to share my personal experiences that our medical system has become more of a, particularly for children in this country, as more of a volume-based system where you have to see as many as will fit in your schedule. And that is backwards. For me, the model is I want to see only as many children as I can actually reach in that day. If that means it's a much lower volume, then so be it. That's how it works, because you have to give individual time properly allotted to the situation that's there. So it's a very relaxed, slow pace, a lot of relationship building with a child, trying to have them as comfortable as possible. I don't have any waiting rooms in my office. We have a playroom when they first enter, and I greet families at the door because I have a concierge approach to the care that I deliver. And children, as they're playing, we begin their medical assessment. We start discussing any issues that families have. I can begin examining a child right from the playroom. We don't have to bring them back to an exam room necessarily unless they're comfortable to go back there yet. I have a lot of flexibility in breaking the traditional molds of exactly how a medical visit is supposed to go. You're supposed to come in, you sit in a waiting room with other people, and the doctor calls you in the back. And I don't do any of that. It's not how my office works at all. So because of that and because of that flexibility, it allows me to accomplish the quality of care that I want to see delivered in my own family, something that I would want to see for my own children. That's how I approach other children that way. Now, to give you an example, when I was thinking about the 6 pillars of health, a lot of families come to me who are in my practice who have questions of, okay, how do I help my child eat more vegetables, for example, or help them, children on the autism spectrum in particular, how do I help them avoid having excess weight gain and abnormalities with any of their metabolic factors from the type of diet and nutrition that we have in this country that's rampant for everyone, honestly. And I love simplicity. That's my favorite thing. It goes, I talk about the fact that 60 to 80% of the time, all of us are spending it doing things that are automated. We don't think about the things that we're doing on our daily lives. Like if we drive somewhere, sometimes we'll reach our destination. And I don't remember making all those turns and doing all this to get from point A to point B. But because the brain has to conserve energy. And this is some of the things that I discuss with families. Your brain conserves energy. So if you train yourself into proper habits, the results will just come from themselves. You don't have to force things to happen. And it's particularly when it comes to the already strained relationships between parents and their autistic children, to strain it even further by imposing new things on them is the last thing I want to do. I want it to be a natural transition for them. And I explain to families how to do things naturally. So a simple adjustment that we can make is make it a game where you have a flashcard with your child. And if they see a flashcard of different fruits and vegetables, and they have to pick one to at least try and taste for that day. And they take turns with their mom and dad and other siblings. So that's one example.
I love that. I was just talking to a colleague of mine at Anderson about a program that we have when it comes to introducing students to new foods, whether it be a texture thing, a color thing, a taste thing. But it's very similar to what you were saying. There's this societally, there seems to be this overwhelming sense that, which makes sense because that's kind of where we are as a society, sadly, where you have to like resolve the whole thing, this whole big, huge issue. You have to have the right answer and it just works. And that's so very rarely, if ever, the actual case of how people learn. Anybody learns something new. And so what she was talking to me about, she's a speech therapist, and she was talking to me about how it really comes down to maybe you start with just, introducing the idea that maybe it's a carrot, for example, because it's orange, or it's the texture a carrot is, or it's the carrot itself. Maybe first it's just that the carrot is in a dish on the table. They don't even have to touch it, smell it, taste it. It's just in their presence, and you start there and then you move to something much more simple. But the idea being similar in that it's a natural evolution of then you're sort of getting used to oh yeah, the carrots are always there. And then the next thing is maybe, move it a little closer or put one on the plate and just tolerating having to be on a plate for a meal. There are so many things I agree with you that can accomplish the overall goal without causing such enormous levels of stress on a family unit that is most likely already experiencing that in other ways. So I love that that's your approach. You also said we're unfortunately going to run out of time in a minute, but I just wanted to say, you mentioned your concierge approach. How many other doctors are doing this? Is this something that you created? Is this a model that we might see, growing in the future? What are your thoughts on that? Because it seems amazing and like something that everybody would benefit from.
So the latter is true as a response to the volume base of pediatric care in this country. There are pediatric practices all around the country who are embracing the direct care model, concierge style of care for children, where they focus on quality and accessibility first and foremost, above everything else. And that model has been growing. And there are many more success stories that we hear about year after year. And that has come out of something that family medicine physicians initially started doing with their concierge services, and we've taken it to the pediatric world. It's newer, it's more youthful, more young of a field than what has happened with the family medicine side, but it is definitely growing year after year, thankfully.
I think it's great. After COVID or during COVID, many of us were introduced to the idea of concierge medicine via Zoom and, the use of technology. But the fact that you're taking the concierge model and utilizing it in person, I think it gives me great hope and a really positive feeling for the families who are having children now who may or may not be diagnosed with autism or other challenges. Like you said, challenge is a daily thing for pretty much everybody. So doing what we can as a society and as professionals to make life easier for our fellow humans in this world is thankfully the direction that I get to hear about by way of talking to people like yourself. So we have to end this interview. Is there any just last comment you would like to make, or, shout out to anybody?
Oh, yes. I would be remiss if I did not mention that I offer a free resource to all families all around the world through this amazing platform called YouTube.com. I have educational videos for families where they see my wonderful face discussing the news, the common struggles, the challenges. Actually, honestly, what these videos are the most commonly asked questions that I hear in my office, and I'm answering them for everyone in the world.
I love it.
So I encourage everyone to check it out if they have a time.
Yeah, if you didn't get to write that down, it's youtube.com. And we'll make sure we include that when we post this, the link to this interview, and put it on our website, just so it's easier. But that's wonderful in making it accessible to so many families and children. Dr. Vlad, it's been a great pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much. And I look forward to staying in touch with you in the future.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine. I thank you for all the work that you do. It serves many, many families. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This is 1 in 36, the weekly talk show on topics related to autism spectrum disorder. I'm your host, Eliza Bozensky. And remember, Anderson cares.
You've been listening to 1 in 36, a weekly presentation of the Anderson Center for Autism. Join them for another edition of the show at this time next weekend.